totally fine.
Now
Alright.
we'll start the December meeting of the Sustainability Committee. Roll
Alright.
call, please.
Committee member Eric Friedman. Committee member Kristen Snedden.
Here.
Chair Megan Harmon.
Sure. And we will move or approve the minutes from, it's like the September meeting.
The special meeting from September
Special
18th.
meeting from September, so I don't know that I was there.
Yes, you were.
I wasn't?
there.
I think you might have been. All right, time has no meaning, I don't, you know, okay, I'll second that. All in favor? Yes. Okay, so approved. Now we'll move to public comment, please. We've got 2 public commenters. We'll begin with Ethan.
Where should I go for that?
Wherever you come for, right here. I think
All right,
you're good.
I'll just go from right here. Hi there, I'm Ethan Madej and I'm a 15-year-old Santa Barbara High School student. Councilmember Harmon, you may remember me from April's Coastal Commission hearing. And as I said there, and as I will say here again, we shouldn't have to be here. Young people shouldn't have to be in meetings and shouldn't have to have this discussion, but we are, and I think that makes it incredibly important, especially with young people demanding action, as we've seen in our recent walkout from Santa Barbara High School. And we're here supporting the Make Polluters Pay Climate Superfund Act and asking that you pass a resolution onto the city council to have them vote and pass a resolution to demand that State Senator Monique Limon and Assemblymember Greg Hart support us on this bill. So I hope that we can work with you on this. I have sent you guys the email information with links, and yeah, I hope we can work together on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, more.
Can I ask you a question? Will you mention that the time frame that this is urgent?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they are bringing this bill into the committees in the House and Senate in January. So the faster we can get this done, the better. And however, we might not be able to pass this bill. That's why we need this so quickly. And we need to get our state senator and assembly member to send. Thank
Hey everyone, my name is Lauren Leland. I'm with the Santa Barbara Polluters Pay Coalition, coalition of members from various organizations, including 350 Santa Barbara, the Sierra Club, Santa Barbara County Action Network, UCSB Environmental Affairs Board, Society for Fearless Grandmothers, and more. And we're here to ask that the Sustainability Committee recommend that the City Council pass a resolution in support of AB 1243, which is California's Polluters Pay and Climate Superfund Act. This piece of legislation requires that those most responsible for the increase in climate hazards and disasters we are experiencing must pay a fee proportional to their emissions. The money created from this fund can be used for disaster recovery and relief, transitioning to clean energy, and a wide variety of climate resilience measures that could benefit our communities. This bill targets only the very largest fossil fuel companies, those who are making billions in profit and can afford to pay so that California residents don't have to shoulder the burden. City of Santa Barbara is doing such amazing work in regard to climate adaptation and resilience, and this funding could support even more of this type of work. I took a look at the update report provided today from the Adaptation and Resilience Division that shows that the latest coastal hazard models show sea level rise will cause flooding sooner and over a greater area, and that we can expect more extreme storms separated by longer periods of drought. We know all too well here that we are facing the combined impacts of sea level rise, intense fires, flooding, and drought. The report also mentions that as projects move from planning to construction, additional funding will be needed. This offers a solution. With California's Climate Superfund, the City of Santa Barbara can secure funding to accelerate and grow the important work that is being done without putting an additional financial burden on taxpayers who are already struggling in an affordability crisis. The County of Santa Barbara is voting on Tuesday on a resolution in support of this bill, and it is expected to pass. Santa Barbara County will be the 20th city or county across the state to show official support, including San Francisco, LA, and San Diego, as well as Port Hueneme and Oxnard here on the Central Coast. We are asking that the City of Santa Barbara follows their lead in showing official support for this bill that will bring funding for climate resilience to our communities. Thank you for your time and for everything that you do.
Thank you. Thanks, Stephen. Any other public comments? No? Thank you very much. All right, excuse me. Now we'll move on to item 4, the annual report from Tri-County Regional Energy Network.
Good morning, council members. Jefferson Linden Energy and Climate Division and Sustainability and Resilience. This item is to receive and file an annual report from the Tri-County Regional Energy Network. To present here, we have Garrett Long, Sustainability Division Manager from the County of Santa Barbara. Part of Garrett and his division's responsibilities is to administer the Tri-County Regional Energy Network. And he's going to tell you a little bit about what 3C REN does. 3C REN is a hugely important partner for the Energy and Climate Division in Santa Barbara Clean Energy in our decarbonization journey. Just an example of a few things that we do in collaboration. We co-design and align incentives for things like heat pump water heaters. We co-sponsor trainings for our workforce. We also are working on energy codes and collaborate on reaching hard to reach communities with the incentives that we're offering. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Mr. Wong.
Thank you, Mr. Litton. Good morning, Garrett Wong here with the County of Santa Barbara. As Jefferson mentioned, I'm the Sustainability Division Manager, but I also serve as the co-director for the Tri-County Regional Energy Network. We have 3 co-directors from each county. And earlier this year, we released an impact report highlighting the successes that the REN has had over the past year. And we haven't made it a habit of coming to the jurisdictions and presenting those impacts, especially those that are local. And so we're starting to do that now. And so we're happy to have this presentation and opportunity to open discussion on the Regional Energy Network. Right. So just want to make sure we're clear on what we're talking about. We do call ourselves 3C REN for short. That stands for the Tri-County Regional Energy Network. And we are primarily focused on utilizing ratepayer dollars to deliver energy efficiency and electrification programs in our 3 counties. And that is different from 3CE, which stands for Central Coast Community Energy. And outside of the city, they are the default utility provider when it comes to sourcing local electricity and renewable energy. So we work closely, obviously, with 3CE as well as SBCE to implement programs and making sure that we're coordinated, that we're leveraging each other's resources and funding, and making sure that we're kind of optimizing and maximizing our impact in the community. Next slide. So the Regional Energy Network is funded by utility ratepayer dollars. So whether you're paying electricity bills or gas bills, there are fees that are associated with each. And those fees are collected and aggregated at the statewide level. The Public Utilities Commission has the authority to authorize basically energy efficiency as a community service across the state. And historically, that was passed down through utilities. Utilities would run energy efficiency programs, they still do. But obviously, there are limits to how much impact and reach they can have in terms of reaching customers and making sure that customers are accessing these incentives and resources. So a little over a decade ago, regional energy networks came into being, piloted in LA area and the Bay Area, and they were formed and organized and managed by local governments. And regional energy networks stepped into this space to say that local governments can also design and implement and deliver energy efficiency programs along with utilities, and maybe we can do it better or do it differently. So regional energy networks primarily are focused on what are called hard to reach customers, and that can include a wide variety of different kind of criteria, things from not speaking English as their first language, low income, being in a rural community, or even small to medium-sized businesses can be considered hard to reach customers. So this regional energy network is the 3rd iteration since the LA and Bay Area, and there's actually now a significant expansion of regional energy networks across the state. So it's a pretty significant transformation kind of statewide that we're part of this movement of really localizing energy programming. Next slide. As I mentioned, we are co-directing, co-leading this network. So each county has a certain function, kind of responsibility of the offerings that we have, which I'll talk a little bit about later. Ventura County serves as the administrative lead. So they're the ones who are bearing that burden with liaising with the Public Utilities Commission, managing the contracts with the utilities, most of the contracts with our contractors as well. And we can move on, thank you. I've already talked a little bit about the history, so I won't get too far into that, but I think the thing I wanted to note here is that when we started around 2018, 2019, and we started with a relatively modest budget of $50 million. And we were able to significantly expand that to $155 million for the next business plan that we submitted and are currently implementing now. And we're actually about to develop and submit a new business plan for 2028 and beyond. And so it's another opportunity for us to consider, what things we might want to design and implement and work with together with our jurisdictions when it comes to, again, energy efficiency and electrification programs. We have three kind of primary buckets of work where the industry and the community interface with us. So primarily what people are most commonly used to is our incentives. So we do single family, multifamily, and now commercial energy saving programs. And those are primarily run through contractors who know how to work with our program, and they basically offer no and low cost energy projects to customers. And then they're the ones who are kind of administering the incentives and then basically getting paid to offset that cost. We offer training programs for industry or professionals who are in construction and design and trades to try and make sure that we're moving our local workforce to knowing how to design, build, retrofit, operate, and maintain high-performing buildings. And then we also provide services through Energy Code Connect. So this is primarily focused on new construction, on rehabilitation of buildings. Most of those projects have to get permits, and when they have to get permits, they have to do energy models, and those energy models have to comply with the latest energy standards, either what the state has set or what the local government has established. And so keeping up on those energy codes can be complicated and challenging. And so our service, the Energy Code Connect, helps both building officials, local building officials and jurisdictions, as well as the professionals who are developing these projects. We also offer technical assistance programs. So this isn't direct incentives that we're paying out when it comes to the agricultural sector, for example. There's already a lot of incentives and resources and financial programs out there for agricultural operations. So our technical assistance is really about identifying those opportunities and then figuring out where the right resource they can avail themselves of. Energy Assurance Services is another technical assistance program where we are benchmarking and auditing facilities and really looking at ways in which we can make recommendations and potentially offer additional support for facilities to add renewable energy, to add energy storage, in addition to becoming more energy efficient. Coming back to why regional energy networks exist or how we're funded, we're only able to fund projects that are energy efficiency or electrification. So we can't do things like solar, battery, or electric vehicle charging, but we can kind of stitch that together in a service and help lead those customers to other programs that can fund those kinds of projects. Slide. So across the whole Tri-County region, across all three counties, this is our impact for 2024. And we're going to break that down into what's happening here in the city of Santa Barbara specifically. You can see we're reaching a wide number of community members with our events. We have, again, both event for industry as well as for residents to kind of learn about, energy efficiency programs, high performing buildings, electrification and the like. And we are serving a growing population of residents with our energy savings projects as well. Next slide. So diving a little bit more specifically, so here in the city of Santa Barbara, this is local information. So within your jurisdiction, we were able to complete 25 projects, serving 25 homes. Those incentives amounted to roughly over $64,000. And again, we're working on reaching hard to reach family households. So that criteria that I mentioned, and we're working with contractors who know how to leverage our program And then they're also leveraging other sources of funding, potentially from SBCE, potentially from the state, to make sure that these customers are literally not paying anything to get these upgrades. And we're talking about projects that are primarily heat pump water heaters and HVAC systems. So improving quality of life, improving comfort, and making sure homes are more energy efficient. Next slide. We haven't gotten any projects in the multifamily sector yet. We're currently working on a push to reach property owners this year, and we're hoping that that will yield some interest in the program. We just did kind of an outreach initiative in San Luis Obispo County for multifamily property owners, and that's starting to create a pipeline. Multifamily projects are long in nature because it takes a long time to scope the project and kind of get consent with the property owner and really scope that out from a financing perspective and to implement. So from year to year, we might see low activity, and then we might see a lot of activity just because of that kind of life cycle of project. Next slide. So we just launched our commercial energy savings program. And here we're focused on small and medium-sized businesses, also hard to reach as well. There's additional incentives that they can receive if they are, again, if English is not a primary language, either of the business or the customer segment. If they're small or rural communities, we have served some businesses locally, and I think that'll show up in our 2025 impact report when we come back to report to you. We've held a lot of training events, and we've seen a lot of attendance from City of Santa Barbara when it comes to local contractors, building officials, and other industry stakeholders. And we've also seen a decent number of engagement when it comes to our Energy Code Connect program, where again, we're educating folks on where the code is at, what the new standards are, how to comply or potentially go beyond. And we're also offering, again, that service locally, either to local architects and contractors or local building officials. Just mentioned the agriculture energy solutions. Obviously, there's not really any agricultural operations in the city that I'm aware of. So this wouldn't be all that relevant for your jurisdiction.
I have a question on that, Mr. Ron. Would that apply to pumping accounts? We do have a high number of pumping accounts related to water treatment, which is typically an agricultural designation.
We can look into that.
Yeah, okay, great.
Next slide. So that concludes my prepared slides. And because I prepared the slide deck a few months prior, we weren't able to add in information. So like I've said, we're actually going through a new business plan for the 2028-2035 period. So this is an opportunity for us to listen to the local community and jurisdictions and our partners and kind of get an understanding of where are we going, what are our interests, what are our needs, and how can the Regional Energy Network be a part of that. Again, we provide customer programs, workforce development programs, code support. There's more that we can do potentially. So it shouldn't necessarily just be limited to that, but these are opportunities for folks to provide their input and feedback as we prepare this business plan. We asked for 155 million last iteration. We're likely going to be significantly expanding that request going forward. Earlier this year, we've exhausted some of our budgets for incentives. Single family, commercial were exhausted before the end of the year, which means that the demand is growing, the pipeline's increasing, and people know what to expect from the Regional Energy Network when it comes to our programs and our financial offerings. And we're now entering into our 7th year of existence. So, we're kind of moving out of our freshman phase and into more maturity and sophistication. So I think we're really looking at ways in which we can be real partners with our local jurisdictions and obviously reduce carbon emissions across the whole county and the Tri-County region. but thank you.
And I just want to add that the SBC team is working closely with Ren on the business planning process to align like the incentives that we offer versus what they offer and where the gaps are and see if there's a way to bridge those gaps. And so that process is happening right now, as Mr. Wong shared. And if you have any thoughts on that, I'd love to hear it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Wong. This is really great work that you guys are doing. So I'll turn to my colleagues to see if they have questions.
Yeah, this is fantastic. Thank you. And I really appreciate you taking the time to come and give us updates. A question I get from the public a lot, and actually from within my own household,
Mm.
we want a heat pump. Where do we go? Do we go to the city? Do we go to the county? Do we go? And how can we make that clear when we have people that sort of cross jurisdictional, you're serving so many? How do we do that, get that message out to the public?
Yeah, thank you. We can both answer that question. So the benefit of having such a close relationship with the city is that we know each other's programs very well. And we also know what the best kind of point of entry would be for anyone who has a question. So if anyone were to contact the county or kind of the Regional Energy Network, we have our own webpage. We know how to get them kind of set up so that way they will work with a contractor that's enrolled with us. They know how to access our programs. They also can be made aware of city's programs as well, if they're not already. And so we have kind of like a concierge type approach when it comes to kind of public inquiries, because we know there's like at least 3 or 4 different players in the space, and it's hard to navigate. And so whenever we get those inquiries, we know where to kind of map people based off of where they live, based off of what type of customer they are, and what would be the most optimal kind of way of getting their projects and maximizing the funding that they could get.
And then building on that, the SBC team took 2 actions this year that should dramatically help that. One is we created our advisor hotline, which Ms. Lopez Lozano is one of the answerees of that, our
Nice.
Spanish speaking representative. That is really built to provide that concierge service. So walk you through like, what is a heat pump? Where do I buy it? How does it, what's the installation process? And then what incentives are available? How do I permit, et cetera? And then we did, this came before you a few months ago, the GovCentives platform, which will launch in January.
It's up.
It's up? It's up? Okay, it's up.
Okay.
Where you can literally put in your zip code and your city, and it will know which utility you're a part of, and will find all of the incentives you're eligible for, and map you also to those. So that the combination of what Mr. Wong is saying of having that we meet quarterly with Ren to discuss all of these things, and then these resources is hopefully making that journey easier. I mean, there's sort of no way to make it seamless. We're trying really hard to, but trying to make it as easy as possible.
So any individual could contact either the city or the county, and then you will reroute them to where
Correct.
they need to
And we're
go.
trying to
Okay.
minimize the rerouting, right, as much as possible, because that's how you lose people.
Yes.
So really that's the concierge approach, is trying to, how much of it can we do for them or hold their hand through the process.
Thank you. And another question I have is maybe, I mean, so many multifamily, and that's like the hardest, when you say hard to reach. What is emerging, or what could we be looking for as addressing that particular need?
The downfall of the multifamily is what's called the split incentive. So typically the building improvements benefit the owner and the savings benefit the tenant. And so there's no like joint benefit.
Okay.
And so it's trying to figure out mechanisms to align those somehow. And so the teams both teams are constantly thinking about how to do that, but that's the real challenge. And so one thing that Mr. Wong's sort of pioneering is movable appliances, and could those be tried out by renters? And we're participating in the sort of thought process around that, so really trying to get creative about how to reduce that split incentive.
Fantastic. And then just sprinkle some women in here. Thank you.
What was the website that you,
GovCentives, we need to do
Anyways,
an announcement on that. We'll
okay,
do
so,
that.
but how do you,
GovCentives.
GOV, okay, sensor
Rolls off the top.
dot org, gov?
It's
com?
on it's on SBC's incentive page, so there's no unique URL towards it.
Okay,
But under
So you have to
education,
click it from there.
Yeah.
okay, so it's on the SBC page.
That's a
Okay,
statewide thing.
got it.
Oh,
Is that a statewide thing or just city?
It's city, but each city has their own.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So on the, just a follow up on the multifamily. A couple things. One is, I think you kind of explained it, the lack of lining up between the owners and the thing, but, what about any engagement with property management companies? Because those are the ones that ultimately, they run the properties and they're more informed than say you have like, the property manager is gonna take over for the owner, or if you have a condo association, the board is gonna defer to their property manager. So do you engage with property management companies on these? Because that's where I think you could really get into to understand the nuances of multifamily dwellings.
I think that's a good approach. So I mentioned this outreach initiative, and what we've done at least get addresses for all the properties that classify as multifamily. But then whatever contact is listed is typically the owner. So we're pushing out physical mailers, and so there's going to be a limitation there. But I think you have a point in terms of, doing a little bit more outreach to the property management companies, because they manage multiple, they have a portfolio, right? And so there's an opportunity to leverage that.
Because one of the things with the property if you have the property managers and they're dealing with either an individual owner or an HOA. I'll use the example of HOAs, because I'm familiar with them, from my own living situation. They're constantly trying to reduce the costs, to manage the properties, which ultimately goes into your monthly dues. So if the property managers were informed, hey, if we invested in these, it could reduce some savings, then that gets passed on. So it actually, the property manager would be the one to vet it. And so it gives them a tool to start the discussions, because the board members aren't going to really know, because they're doing their own lives, whatever. So
Right.
the property manager. So to the extent that you can take a look at how to do that, I think it might pay some dividends in the long run, and control costs. And a lot of condos that end up getting rented out anyways. And so the extent that those can get controlled, it helps with controlling just costs for renters as well. So
And we're currently doing that specific process with our multifamily EV program to try and get EV infrastructure, which is separate from what Mr. Wong was talking, but it's a good starting point.
that's all I really, thank you for the presentation. Good to see you always. So,
Yep.
I'm excited about this.
Yeah, I just have, thank you. I'm gonna try not to talk too much, but I'm just thinking as, you're all speaking about multifamily, like where we integrate these conversations with, multifamily development at the production stage. Not that we're building that many units, so I don't know that this would truly be a drop in the bucket, but I imagine that it's probably easier to integrate these types of systems at construction. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm interested
is.
in that question. So and I guess you're kind of doing it with Energy Code Connect through projects, but like maybe it's a way that our different departments can really support the work that you're doing if community development either requires or probably more likely at least provides the information at the time when permits are being pulled or plans are being reviewed. From a multifamily perspective, I think that would probably be really useful.
And that was the intention of our natural gas ban that got repealed.
Yes.
And in
So
2026.
I guess we can't require it.
Well, 2026, we're coming back with a new REACH code,
Okay.
Which will not require it, but heavily favor it.
Totally, yeah.
Ms. Minter has been helping us on the nuance of the state legislation on how we might be able to do that. So stay tuned for that, but that's probably the best way to get it into new development.
Nice. And maybe we can facilitate relationship building, like, so not only are we heavily incentivizing / requiring, but supporting with the resources that are available. Okay, are there any public comments on this? Sorry. Any further comments from colleagues?
Thank you, really, thank you. It's very
Thanks for having
exciting. This is, every time I've seen you present publicly, and I think it's really exciting, all the things that are happening. And again, just thank you for coming.
Yes, we really appreciate you being here. Okay, we'll close that item and move on to the adaptation and resilience program update.
Good morning, all. Melissa Hedrick, Adaptation and Resilience Manager, and I'm here to give you guys an update on our Adaptation and Resilience program. I'll start by talking about our program, going into some new updated hazard maps that we have. And then giving an update on all of our major work efforts, including the wastewater and water systems adaptation plan that's getting launched at council on Tuesday. So that's exciting. So just to start out, we did launch a adaptation and resilience division, a small but mighty division in July. And that includes me, Timmy Bolton, Senior Climate Adaptation Analyst. And then new to the city is Michael Wells, Climate Adaptation Analyst. We stole him from State Lands Commission. We're super excited to have him. Let's hit the ground running. But I did just want to mention that the reason we still call it a program is while we're serving as the hub for all these efforts, we are working across the city, and every single one of our projects closely involves public works, parks and recreation, waterfront on a day-to-day project level. And so I really want to raise up those partners, because without them, these projects would not be happening. I'm not going to be able to implement a flood control project myself. So in any case, the goal of our program is to help our community prepare for current and future climate-related hazards like sea level rise, flooding, erosion, and wildfires. Next slide. So we're really taking a wraparound, multifaceted approach. We're incorporating climate change into city planning. So that's things like water supply planning. Our last water supply planning, we incorporated climate change and increased drought conditions. We're reducing flood and erosion risk. You'll hear about some projects we have, increasing capacity of our stormwater system. We're adapting city infrastructure, so things like moving or floodproofing our wastewater assets. We're looking at our building standards to decrease risk. So things like the creek buffer ordinance. Do we need to have different flood proofing standards in our low-lying areas? And then really we're providing our community the resources to adapt. As you know, the areas that flood frequently in the city, a lot of them are low income. And they're very interested in flood control, but also have the least amount of resources to adapt. And then an important part of all this, given the cost, is really planning for future resources. We, will not be able to, be able to 100% rely on federal and state funding. We are going to have to be a player funding wise on these bigger projects, and so how that plays out long-term is something we really need to prioritize soon. And then we're leveraging our regional partnerships. We're working with our Climate Collaborative closely. And then of course, Beacon, our Joint Powers Authority. Next slide. So as all of you know, we approved our adaptation plan in 2021, and that just addressed sea level rise, but it really provided a foundation for all of our work because it introduces this idea of phasing adaptation based on monitoring and then taking action when triggers of it are reached. In addition, the guiding principles in this plan really have been extremely useful in prioritizing actions for adaptation. And so this continues to be our guiding light for all of our projects. Next slide. All right, getting into our updated hazard model. As we started on our waterfront adaptation plan, we knew that there were gaps in understanding of our sediment movement and conditions on our waterfront because of the presence of the harbor breakwater. So the regional Cosmos models actually just had that area blanked out because acknowledged that they did not have a good understanding of that at a regional level, or at a statewide level, I guess I should say. And so in addition, we started a modeling exercise because we really wanted the ability as part of the waterfront adaptation plan to look at how effective interventions would be. So if we put in, if we move the bike path back, how many years does that, save the beach? How does that affect flooding and all that kind of stuff? You really can't do that unless you have your own model. So anyways, we undertook this exercise. It was long, but we did it. And what,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
When you say we did the model, is it still using the USGS
Yes.
modeling program? It's just we internally running new inputs, or?
we took the USGS information and made our own model because Cosmos is not open source. So that is actually something we'd love to advocate for
Okay.
at the federal and state level, is getting an open source model that we could just obtain and do that with would be amazing, but that is not possible. So we did kind of have to create our own. We tried to mirror Cosmos to the extent feasible.
Okay.
We did intentionally change a few assumptions just to meet our regional conditions better. And we are working with USGS because we did find some things that were inaccurate because of, we did a much more detailed model so that they can incorporate those things into Cosmos so that we're aligned, and that they are doing this effort with Cosmos of updating it when they get new information and better information. So this is updated better information, but it is very closely aligned with
Okay.
the Cosmos model. But the key difference is the sediment movement along in the harbor and West Beach, but also the starting shoreline position that they had for East Beach was not very accurate. And so the result of that is that, and the fact that we are seeing significant erosion at East Beach, almost 5 feet a year, means that the starting point for flooding and erosion is farther back than we saw in Cosmos. And so we see flooding sooner crossing Cabrillo Boulevard. So I'll show you the maps.
Thank you.
Next slide. I'm actually gonna get up for those. So these are the new maps. So previous maps didn't show any flooding north of Cabrillo until 2.5 feet of sea level rise. But as you'll see, so the tidal inundation, that's the regular high tide, is the stripes. The 1 year storm, which is an actually super useful thing out of this model, is blue, and then the green is the major storm. So these are, again, coastal storms. This is not rainfall events, but high wave events. And it is showing some storm surge into Cabrillo Ball Field. That is something we are seeing now. We are seeing salt water come up and to the high groundwater and come into the culverts during high wave events, and actually get salt water into that field, and it's killing the grass. So we're starting to see these things now. Next slide. So moving into 0.8 feet of sea level rise 2050, we start seeing more frequent flooding, several areas north of Cabrillo. As you can see, the ball field and mostly on East Beach. Next slide. 1.6 feet of sea level rise, we start seeing flooding up to the railroad tracks. Next slide. 2.5 feet, we start seeing it getting close to Highway 101. Next slide. And 3.3 with really big storms, we see it crossing Highway 101. And for the annual storm, up to Highway 101. Next slide. And then next slide. And then by the end of the century, we start seeing regular high tides north of the highway. So this again is without any intervention. And part of what we're doing as part of the waterfront project and other projects is looking at backstop flood control measures and as such. Next slide. So the much more accurate shoreline positions that we're seeing really highlight several things. One is that Ledbetter is fairly, over time, fairly stable. we are going to see some erosion, and these are just some different amounts of sea level rise. But there is still space there for us to keep a beach, right? And so next slide. Same thing, this is cut off, but West Beach, as you can see, it's an accretional beach. It gets bigger over time, and in fact, we've had a dredge over time. This is a huge opportunity site to make this a better beach and to keep it. East Beach is going to be a challenge. We are already, if you went out this morning or if you go out tomorrow morning with the high tides, you'll see that the tide is right up against already the bike path. And in fact, water is surging onto the bike path. I encourage you to go out tomorrow and check it out. But that is happening already at high tide. And it's pretty quick that we start seeing significant erosion in the middle part of East Beach. So this is something we are actively looking at as part of the waterfront plan. Next slide. So you'll all be familiar with our 100-year floodplain map. This is again rainfall flooding. And as part of our hazards work, we also had our consultants look at all the different climate models and how they align with regard to changes in rainfall patterns in our region. And really what they are showing, and I think we are all experiencing this, is that we are kind of seeing the same amount of average rainfall in a year, but we're seeing it coming in these really heavy storms. So the rainfall rates have significantly increased. And then that's separated by like big periods of no rain. And so, next slide. And so the reason for that is that as the upper atmosphere warms, the air can contain more moisture in it. And so when it does rain, it just really pours out. And as you know, when rain comes slowly, it can infiltrate into our drains and infiltrate into our soil. But when it comes all at once like that, it just causes flooding. And we saw that a few weeks ago. Our first rain of the season, a bunch of flooding. And the reason for that was the rainfall rates were really high. And our storm drain system just can't handle those high rainfall rates. Next slide. So our consultant did an analysis of how this is changing frequency of certain types of flood events. And so these are just two examples. The staff report has like the whole gamut, but so for instance, in January 23, that was considered a 10-year rainfall event. And these are pictures from, I believe, the east side of Santa Barbara. So moving forward, there's really this 10-year event is twice as likely to occur. So it's essentially becoming like a 5-year event. And then the 100-year storm, like we saw in 98, is about like 7 times more likely. And so it's really becoming like the 15-year event. So next slide. So what are we doing about all this? Next slide. So these are our active major projects. They are all funded in some measure by the city, California Coastal Commission, and the Coastal Conservancy. So I'm kind of just going to run through them and where we're at with all of them. Next slide. So the Regional Coastal Adaptation Monitoring Program is being run by Beacon, and the city is a partner to that. And really the goal of this project is to provide local managers like us the information we need to know what's happening in these changing conditions and to make decisions. Right now, we only have projections, so Cosmo is a projection of what might happen, but we don't have the companion piece of what's actually happening. And in order to know that information, we have to hire consultants for several hundreds of thousands of dollars to tell us that information and analyze data. So most of the data here is already existing. We are not creating new data. It's really just analysis. And next slide. So Beacon released a draft plan in August 2025 and is just finalizing that plan. And really what it does is prioritize different evaluation and data to highlight what it is we need to work on first, so that what's critical to monitor. And then after that, like the information that would be very valuable to us. This sounds like really basic, you know, but you'd be surprised talking to NOAA and USGS how much this is like blowing their mind because they are researchers with their own research projects. They're not thinking about like what we need. I mean, and so they are actually super happy to hear this information. So, and the critical things to monitor are obvious, you know, changes in sea level rise amounts, shoreline position and rate of change, how the bluff edge and base position is changing. One thing that we're really trying to work with at the county level is this item, documenting storm events and impacts. So really standardizing how we are cataloging and documenting storm events and their impacts and location and the money and people affected. Because really, it really highlights like this property, this area has been flooded 5 times, and you know, that kind of thing that is not being comprehensively documented right now. And so that's a major effort that we are launching with the county. Next slide. So there's 2 pilot studies coming out of this. One is already funded. It's basically a demonstration monitoring report and really bringing us up to analyze what's happened to date and like providing a baseline and an example of how the reports will be given out in the future every 5 years or 3 to 5 years. The second is an unfunded pilot project that we're seeking funding for. It's partnering with USGS to use satellite data and essentially provide a companion tool to Cosmos that shows shoreline position over time using satellite data. And speaking to USGS, the new satellite data is the most efficient source of information moving forward for everyone. This is really something that should be happening almost nationwide. And that's why USGS is excited about it. This would be best, in my opinion, internalized by some agency over time. But, and it is something that when we've been talking to our state partners, they really want. We have been having some difficulties obtaining funding for it because a lot of the more sciencey monitoring funding from NOAA was from NOAA and has been taken away. And most of the state funding is for like very specific projects. And so we're definitely in conversations, but would love in your world and your outside worlds of talking to people at the state and federal about this is a huge need and could benefit the whole state. Next slide. I think I covered all this. Yeah, next slide. All right, our wastewater and water systems climate adaptation plan getting released next Tuesday. So we're excited about that. Next slide. So yeah, we are releasing it publicly at the council meeting December 9th. There'll be a 60-day public comment period during which we'll be going to Water Commission, giving a very detailed outline of that plan. We'll be coming to this commission, our committee with details on that plan, Planning Commission, then back to Water Commission for comments. We'll be making revisions and then hopefully council will consider it for approval in the April-May timeframe. Next slide. So just some sneak peeks. This plan did look at all climate hazards. So flooding from increased rainfall, sea level rise, wildfire, changes in groundwater level to all portions of the wastewater and water systems. In addition, a risk assessment was done that looked at different types of risks. Almost all of the highest level vulnerabilities and risks are to the wastewater system and to flooding to the wastewater system. So there are two problems we're seeing already. One is during flood events, so during high rainfall events, we are seeing a significant amount of floodwaters entering into the sewer system. So as you know, our sewer system and our stormwater system are supposed to be separate. They are separate here. But that in reality, that's not what's happening during these big flood events. So next slide. So these are the flows going into El Estero Water Resources Center in the 23-24 winter. And these big spikes in capacity or flows going in directly correlate to rainfall events. And what that tells us is that there's large amounts of rainfall and stormwater entering into our sewer system. So when this happens, what can happen is that the sewer system can back up, or we can reach capacity at the wastewater treatment plant, and then we start to see sanitary sewer overflows. And so the increasing flooding increases that probability. So this is something that Water Resources has already been launched many projects to try to resolve. But really, this plan highlights the need to really get after it with reducing inflow and infiltration into the system. In addition, with sea level rise, the introduction of salt water into our groundwater and into our flood waters is an issue with regard to treatment at the wastewater treatment plant, because the bugs and bacteria there that treat the sewage are freshwater bacteria. And so if large amounts of saline water get into the system, they either have to close the plant or the whole biome dies, and it takes about 3 weeks to come back. So that's a major issue area. So next slide. So as you know, I believe our system is a gravity fed system with the exception of a few pump stations. And so put simply, most of our sewage flows down close to the beach and then goes to El Estero for treatment. And so the key recommendations in the next 20 years, because of the things I just spoke about, are to aggressively seal the manholes in our floodplain areas, to line our pipes, and then we already have what's called an inflow and infiltration master plan. So really get after those projects of implementing them. And then the plan does recommend, especially because of the saline influence that we're beginning to see, convert some of the low-lying areas that are prone to flooding over time to low pressure systems. So from gravity fed systems to low pressure systems. We have some time for that and can do it in phases. So we probably would need to start with phase 1 in about 20 years. But what that means before we can convert the public side, the mains, we need to convert all the connections first. So all the private connections first. So one of the recommendations coming out of the plan is for the city to take a look at the phasing and then introduce an ordinance that new construction and new connections actually include pressurized connections, because pressurized private connections can go into a gravity fed main. And so that over time, we're pressurizing the connections so that when the big turnover happens, we have most of the connections done. I do want to just say that these pressurized systems are very common. We just don't have one. So there's one at Raycon, many parts of the nation have low pressure systems. It's not new technology or anything like that. It's just a matter of us transitioning them. And then with regard to El Estero Water Resources Center, that center is located on a higher ground than the surrounding area. So what we're seeing during flooding now is just limited access to the plant. And so really looking at managing those access issues is several of the recommendations in the plan. And then also putting in a flood wall system at El Estero in the near term is recommended in the plan. I will just stay here because we get asked a lot, and I'm sure it's going to come up. Whether or not we're going to have to move El Estero, and if so, where are we going to move it? And really what the plan shows is that decision is kind of in the 2100 timeframe about whether to protect in place and, raise roadways and all that kind of stuff, or move the plant. And if, as part of that, we'll really want to look regionally, like all the different wastewater sewer agencies are gonna be in the same position. And so really we'll want to look regionally for solutions. And we were required as part of permitting requirements as part of this plan to identify potential sites in the city. Now, and one that is big enough but not affected by sea level rise is a portion of the municipal golf course off Las Positas. But again, as we go through this regional process, we'll be looking at a suite of sites. The next slide. Okay, 30-year waterfront adaptation plan. Next slide. So the purpose of this plan is to get us through erosion and flooding for the next 30 years at our waterfront, address many of the issues we're seeing at our waterfront with erosion and storm surge right now, but also really improving the experience out at the waterfront. So improving our bike path, looking at opportunities for recreation and other infrastructure enhancements as part of it. And in addition, providing that kind of backstop flooding protection. So things like raising the bikeway and moving it back and things like that. And really one of the key goals of the plan is to keep our important harbor uses and the coastal dependent uses there, but then really try to keep beach sand and beach use on the other parts of the waterfront. So next slide. So we have done our hazards analysis. We did an initial push out outreach event almost 9 months ago.
February.
Yeah. And right now we've been working internally on adaptation options and we'll be going out publicly with those in February. And really what those are the suite of options that we're considering doing detailed technical analysis on. So this is not going to be like, hey, we decided this is the end product. It's what are the suite of things we're going to actually drill down on, look at costs and do all the technical analysis on. So that big push out, we will come to this committee and then also council for input on those. And that will be in like starting in the February timeframe. So Mr. Bolton is leading that effort. Next slide. Next slide. So the airport is leading their climate adaptation plan. This is being done in coordination with their drainage master plan and overall master plan. And they have completed their vulnerability assessment. They are also at the phase of having a suite of adaptation options to consider. And so they'll also be releasing those in the February timeframe. Next slide. Next slide. So this is exciting. We have some money from Coastal Conservancy and then combining that with Measure B Creek funds to do a pilot area of the city to develop the city's first stormwater model. If you didn't know, we don't have a model of our stormwater system. We'll be modeling lower level storms, not just the 100-year storm, and then identifying capacity improvements that might alleviate some of this frequent flooding that we're seeing. We'll be analyzing options for Laguna Channel because that's a key part of not just the waterfront, but also El Estero and all the flooding that occurs in the lower downtown area. And so we're just launching this effort. We're super excited. Next slide. And then this project is the Lower Sycamore Creek Flood Mitigation and Restoration Project we are also launching. It's essentially widening and then restoring and laying back the creek banks of Lower Sycamore Creek from Highway 101 to the ocean. And really the purpose of this project is both restoration, but it would almost double the capacity of that stream, allowing Caltrans to open up the bays that they have under Highway 101 to reduce flooding in our east side area. So Measure B again is providing about a third of the funding for the planning, technical studies, concept designs and permitting. And we are going to Coastal Conservancy in our February meeting for a $2 million grant from them for this project, and they're currently recommending approval for that. So we're hopeful that that will go through in February. And Crease Division will be the ones managing this project in close coordination with Public Works Operations, Public Works Street Engineering, and then us. Next slide. Next slide. So something that's going on, it's exciting, is that we got asked to be part of the California Coastal Accelerator. This is being led by Resilient Cities Catalyst with about $1 million of funds from the Alumbra Foundation. And really it's just putting together a cohort of cities that are already working on these issues to kind of like push the next level of implementation. And so the member cities are Santa Cruz, Oceanside, Alameda, and Fort Bragg. And really a lot of it is just sharing knowledge, but also looking at ways that we can combine efforts and get technical assistance. One of the biggest things coming out of this is like jointly endorsing some of the monitoring stuff that we're working on, but also trying to establish permanent funding sources. So next slide. We have already started this cohort, and it is really interesting to look at the different projects that the cities are doing. So I just thought I'd highlight a few for you guys. City of Santa Cruz has already had to rebuild Cliff Drive. Because of the storms of 23-24, they've also redirected part of Cliff Drive. So like rerouted it. City of Oceanside has completely lost their beach. And so they are proposing what's called the Re-Beach project, which is essentially like 2 headlands and an offshore reef. It's about like $50 million that they're looking for right now. City of Alameda is really in a almost an existential crisis with sea level rise, and they are proposing essentially like a walkway flood protection structure across big portions of their city. Both Oceanside, City of Alameda, and City of Santa Cruz are looking at potential ballot measures next election for income. So anyways, I just thought you might be interested in some of the other projects happening. Next slide. These are other projects you might be hearing about at the county level. There's like Legacy Coastal Resilience Project, really kind of looking at all the different jurisdictions projects and and trying to prioritize them. Beach Smart is a county-led project. It's really looking countywide at potential deposition sites for sediment and programmatically permitting that. The city is included in that mix of potential deposition sites and sediment management sites. They've really just begun. And so as that moves along, we can report on that. Next slide. I believe that's all we had. Any questions?
That's it.
That's it. That's it.
Question.
Go ahead. I just have a couple, I guess it gets to, maybe like slide 46, for example, that we need funding for the new shoreline data analysis and monitoring. They're going out, maybe even the public comment too, kind of gets into this. So we have the legislative committee as well. Which I think is the 3 of us, isn't it?
It's the 3 of us.
Yeah, it is the 3 of us, right? So we're actually meeting January 7th, I think it is. And so some of these items, in public comment, and some of these others would be ripe for that discussion.
Okay.
So to the extent that anything in here today, we want to elevate, to do some advocacy earlier in the year, that would be a meeting, because we're not meeting before that with this.
Okay.
So that would be something where we could maybe take quicker action and elevate some of these.
Okay.
So one of my questions, which slide is so many in here. 1 second. It was slide 59. So I've been kind contacted and probably some of you by some of the businesses and on the east side, and property about the Laguna Channel in particular, and how that is functioning. And I know we've gone in and done some, vegetation and sediment removal. But in this slide, the analysis for the Laguna Channel is on there. So what are we actually doing in terms of trying to address capacity for the channel? The pumps or whatever it is, to alleviate those pressures on the other side of the freeway. That's what's happening is it comes up to the freeway. And then it's not able to get through. And then when it does get through the water and the floods, it's the channel itself is at capacity. We don't have the pumps. The pumps are working to the extent. So what are we doing to make that a priority? Because that would alleviate some of the pressures on all these other things that we've been talking about.
Yes, that's a very good comment. So, yeah, we are working on things like removing sediment, trying to increase capacity that way, and working with Caltrans and others on their culvert. We also have the project that's rehabbing the pumps and the tie gate. What that does is really add pump capacity and allows for more efficient pumping and does buy us some time. This project is really more of like a long-term, like how can we try to alleviate and really address flooding, not just now, but moving forward with sea level rise and increased rainfall in a comprehensive way. And so
Can I just add,
Yeah,
too,
go ahead.
there is also a current effort to create a Laguna Channel maintenance plan, a 10-year maintenance plan. Doing what you just mentioned in Laguna Channel is a permitting.
Yeah.
Decathlon, like there are 5 or hexathlon. There are 5 permitting agencies that we have to go through to do, including Coastal Commission, to do anything in that channel. And so it's a real challenge. So we're creating a maintenance plan that would sort of programmatically approve some of these maintenance elements. We can, in an emergency capacity, do vegetation and sediment clearing and sort of beg for forgiveness later. But we only do that when triggered by threat to life or property, which we have some of that when there's flooding. And so Public Works has been proactively addressing that. But yeah, as Melissa said, it's sort of separate from this, which this would look at massive infrastructure level improvements to the channel, which is challenged by its slope, right? It has no slope. So it's really challenging to move water along it.
Okay, so this is the longer term. We have those short term. I wanted to see how this all
Yeah.
fits in there. There's like a immediate, and then there's the medium stuff, which is the 10-year plan, and
Yeah.
then this is the.
And Melissa and
20-year
team are
beyond.
very involved in both.
And all, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Laguna Channel, as we all know, is a huge challenge because there's almost no gradient change. It's very flat, which really limits our immediate options to do big capacity improvements, and really it is gonna take a bigger project to really address those, so.
There's a lot, but I'll talk with you later.
Okay.
Just one thing, it's just more of a question is, you and I, through the League of Cities, and all the staff, and you've been the point that have been working with me on some of these sea level rise issues, and now the Ocean Protection Council's the 17 agency thing that we're one of the local reps on, or at least information. So how does all this fit in that? And is there opportunities to take some of these to those discussions for those meetings that happen like twice a year, so that we can elevate some of these issues to the statewide level?
I would love to do that, particularly with regard to the monitoring project, because. So for instance, OPC puts out the updated sea level rise guidance every 5 years, and it gives new projections. It could be also updating on the status of like we've experienced this much sea level rise in Santa Barbara, Humboldt, blah, blah, blah. The new shoreline positions are here. Like it could actually be doing both.
Instead of just projections,
Instead of
but we
just
need the
projections.
monitoring, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, but the data's out there, that's the thing. So that is one area that if that could get internalized into that process, would be amazing. Yeah.
Those are pretty much my questions. They're out there. I have a lot more, but I think they'd be more appropriate just to sit down and talk with you guys at some of the points.
Happy to do everything, too.
Oh, thank you. I'll I'll save my comments. I'll have a lot of comments.
Okay.
Good comments, but, so when we did the sea level rise adaptation plan, there were the three curves. There was sort of like
Mhm.
the best case scenario, the falling off the cliff scenario, and then the moderate. And then, we had that initial starting point in 2017, and then we were going to sort of see in time which one of those lines we're on.
Yeah.
Are we still like operating in that framework? Do we have enough data now to know which one of those lines we're on, or is that sort of now just different lines because of new data?
Yeah, I should have put the new lines on here. But the information that came out in the last about a year ago,
Mhm.
maybe 2 years ago, does show a narrowing of the distance between the lines in the near term. So like
Yeah.
most of the data is, you know, consistent out for the next 20 years. There's very little range there. After that, it still does diverge quite a bit. I would say that if you look at the intermediate though, and the intermediate high, the ones that we've been using all along, they really haven't changed that much.
Okay.
It's really just these extreme scenarios that have changed a lot.
Okay.
That are highly unlikely on both sides. So one being like the whole world stops emitting carbon tomorrow, and then the other side being like there's a catastrophic failure of the Antarctic ice sheet.
Mhm. So we're sort of having spikes within that envelope of those.
So yeah, sea level rise projections are an average.
Mhm.
And so, for instance, last year with El Nino, we saw much higher sea conditions because of the warming of the water due to El Nino. So yeah, within that, there are huge fluctuations within the average, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. So then it seems like we need to plan for those outlier spikes. Really,
Yes.
because that could destroy an infrastructure, even though it isn't an average, it's an event that happens in that range.
Yeah, so when we look at the models, and Cosmos does this too, it's looking at El Nino conditions, yeah. It factors that in.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And is there gonna be, I use the adaptation plan as a chapter in my class, environmental geology. And I just went over it last week and now I'm thinking like, oh, I need to update to them the information. Is there gonna be an addendum or to the adaptation plan that shows these new sea level rise models and maps of what we're expecting?
I think the base recommendations out of the adaptation plan really haven't changed, like all the priorities. It's really just the
beautiful
timing
maps.
of the maps. We just launched a new website yesterday.
Oh, what is that one?
It is SantaBarbaraCA.gov adaptation. Adaptation. And it has all kinds of information about the new maps. It has a video explaining all the changes. We're really trying to get the education component out there. And it has different project web pages too, but I think.
So that's where we should refer people if we want them to.
Yeah,
get
so our
educated
intention
on-
is
okay.
like a class could pull up this video and take a look at it.
Yeah.
Wait until the end of the day, though.
So.
What? Oh,
Wait
maybe
until the end of the day.
today.
Okay, well,
Maybe
the
wait.
semester's over as of
Yesterday.
yesterday, so for next, okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
You answered the question about our stormwater system being built to like 200-year events that now we're having.
Our stormwater system, the actual stormwater pipes are only built to like 5 or 10 year events.
Oh,
And so
awesome.
that's why we're
Okay.
seeing all this flooding,
Okay.
because
Yes. And I think you answered too about how to balance the immediate needs. I mean, like the flooding now is going to be really pressing versus the long term.
well, I think
How do we-
as part of this modeling exercise, again, we'll only be able to do part of the city, but part of it will be making a priority list so that we're going down. We have those priorities laid out, because otherwise it is hard to keep your eye on the prize of,
Mhm, mhm.
yeah.
With so many pressing things now.
There are, yeah.
Yeah. You're doing phenomenal. job in holding this all together, and really, I'll save it for my comments. Yeah. Not a question there.
Any public comment? Now we'll go to comments.
I'll just say one thanks to all the excellent work here. It's overwhelming, honestly, every time you see it. But you gotta package it down into different components, and that's what we're trying to do. So I like the strategic thinking of it and getting the data and finding things that we can prioritize and how to go about it. And then also using the legislative committee, because some of these, so I think they work in tandem, especially since it's the three of us, to use that. Really what in terms of what's coming up on the council on Tuesday, just be prepared somehow, some way to try your best to control the message about moving El Estero to the golf course, because that's gonna make the headlines. And that's not to way out in the future. There's a lot of things that we're doing. So I don't want 100 emails saying, why are you moving El Estero to the golf course without telling me, and I live in San Marcan.
We're trying really
Yeah.
hard to control that message. We are having a media roundtable on Monday morning.
So perfect.
Try and
So
preface the message.
Yeah.
Councilmember Freeman, I would say, we have really been trying to highlight the more immediate problems. The problem we're getting is that we're getting direct questions from press already about that. And there is that analysis in the plan. So we're trying to get ahead of it.
Yeah.
With the messaging, but
I figured.
Yeah.
But overall, I think it is important that we are able to highlight all the things that we're doing, the regional partnerships with Beacon, and the other 4 cities that we're looking at, because that's important where we're going to be learning the data. So just continue to keep doing what we're doing and have those strategies to do outreach, maybe not even necessarily when items are coming to the council, but just in general on some of these things, maybe periodically just having something like that. You probably already do that, but just to the extent that it doesn't need to be something that we're trying to, or bringing to council, but just constantly feed. So, but overall, I think there's a lot to be thankful to all the staff for. And we're trying to get ahead of it. It's a big task, and funding is going to be the key. And I don't know how we're going to tackle that, but it is something that we should really start to think about policy and strategic wise on how to come up with funding for all these projects. And the last thing I'll say is the other component of it, when we're talking about going to the low pressure system versus the gravity fed, but we have to have the property owners go first. Very little new property is going to be in there. And so it's going to be conversions, and that's going to be even more difficult because there isn't a lot of public funding for private entities like that, but a lot of those are people who aren't going to be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So to the extent that when we're looking at funding the public infrastructure, how can we help the private so we can get ahead of that? Because you can't do, as you said, we can't do the second part without the first part. So funding is going to be the key. That's it.
I am so grateful to this team and this new program, and already within the Sustainability Resilience Department, working interdepartmentally. And this, I love the way you presented this as a program, and that this was within that. And just amazing from day one when we first did the sea level rise adaptation, vulnerability assessment and adaptation plan. The message was not that we were going to waste time on if this is happening, but like facing it head on so that we could address what's happening. And I just feel so strongly you've been such a leader in this and really kept us in the forefront. And then I think about the team, like Councilmember Harmon on the Coastal Commission, Freeman on Beacon, and everything with the League of Cities doing, and all of the partnership with that. I think it's just phenomenal. And I think we should be so proud of not how bad things are going to get, but of how forward thinking, and actually you can't mitigate things if you don't know what you're mitigating. And this has all been led with science, with accepted models, with USGS. And I think that makes a really big difference in defending everything. I'll say, I was a researcher for the USGS with the with the crustal imaging and characterization team. There are different departments within USGS, like that particular department works a lot with satellite imagery. And I'm happy to reach out to them. I think there are a lot of different pockets with connections. So like that particular team has connection to Colorado School of Mines directly. And you have, and at UCSB with Arturo Keller and Brent School, you have a wealth of students, high level PhD students who would love to take this data set with the coastline and crunch that data for you. And like longevity too, not just like a quick student here and there, but a project that is like really focused on coastline mapping and changing. And particularly because Florida is going to be the first to go completely underwater. And so if you're thinking about like the Cosmos model and USGS, it's for the whole country, and that was why we chose it, because it was, accepted through the whole country. There may be interest also through USGS because more regionally, you have the Florida coastline in particular, there may be interest in using satellite data, allowing the open source use of that and feeding into the model. So I think there's, I think maybe not just in one department in the USGS, but there are like many different departments that could feed that. And I know in that, in the crustal imaging characterization team, I mean, it's crustal imaging. That's what they do. And, coast count too. So I think that's maybe like a genuine area where there might already be funding. And like I say, direct linkage to students who are like need projects and things to work on like that. I mean, also, like I say, UCSB and Brent School, Arturo Keller always has students who need things to do. And this is like really important. So the work that's been on this, and like I say, the adaptation plan, it's its own textbook chapter. I mean, it's like, all of the adaptation policies, all of the pros and cons of them, the way to look at, not to be overwhelmed by all the things, but the tiered approach of what to do at certain trigger points of sea level rise. These new maps are really significant. And I think that does need maybe one page of addendum or something where we have these newer, where the surges are and in what years, because it does change the story a little bit. In terms of like, we don't, we're going to certainly get to 2.2 feet of sea level rise. It's just a matter of when, is how sort of the story plays out when you have those three curves.
Yeah.
But now we have current surges. I mean, this is very significant. This changed the storm flooding at the 1 year flood event. I mean, that is a very different urgency message than sort of we have 50, 60 years before we really have to worry about this kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that was really significant in your presentation today, is that it's here, it's now. So that's part of that too. And then I think this is a great opportunity. I think this is within this item for us to support the Make Polluters Pay. I mean, this is about the funding. This is about where is this problem coming from in the first place. And I think if we wanted to, I think it could be within our purview for this item to make a recommendation to support the resolution. And then that could come to council more quickly, because it is in line with this item, that there's that we need money.
Ms. Ginger, do you think that would be all right for them to direct us to bring a resolution to council
But we could recommend
related to
here,
funding for this item? Yeah.
Related to
Okay.
funding, because,
Yeah, either way, if we can get it today, that's better.
Yeah.
okay, well, I'd like to move that.
I'll second it.
Yeah.
Well, of course, I support that fully. Thank you guys so much for your guidance. We appreciate it. And I'll just second, third, all the comments. I mean, I say this every time you make this presentation, but having seen adaptation efforts up and down the state now, it's like I couldn't be more proud and grateful and feel so lucky as I do go up and down the state to be from here, knowing what you're doing. Like it just, it's really been so gratifying to see. We are leaders, truly. I mean, and it's also scary, like the state needs to catch up, but really, really remarkable. The scale of work that you and your team are doing, and I'm not seeing it anywhere else truly across the state of California, at least in the role that I have. So like very much kudos to all of you. So I'll suggest that we take a vote. Any objection to unanimous consent? Seeing none, the motion passes and we will recommend this move up to the full city council for vote. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move on to the last item, which is input from committee on topics of interest. And I just have two, we're running right at two very brief things I want to share with you all. So now that I chair the Coastal Commission, I also sit on the Coastal Conservancy Board, and so very excited to vote for the money in February. Last month we saw PBS SoCal did this 6-part series on coastal stories, looking at parts of the coast, people of the coast, stories of the coast that are historically underrepresented, using art, using storytelling. And it was just like blew me away, and I highly, highly, highly recommend. It's 6 parts. Each part is like 20 minutes. It's not a big thing, but they're absolutely beautiful. And to the extent that we do all of this because we love our coast and we believe that our coast is for everyone, that just is really inspiring. And the integration of our coastal resources and environmentalism and art and dance and storytelling, like it just such a beautiful reminder of that how sort of 360 our coast is. It's not, there's the science and there's the sea level rise, and then there's like the heart of what coastal California really is and what it means to people. And I forced my kids to watch it and they also liked it. So I highly recommend. I'll send the link and you can forward it. But if you just Google PBS SoCal, coastal California, it will come up. Really, it's beautiful. And then the other thing, so you guys may, well, this is probably Justin Cummings, who was on the Coastal Commission last year, is a supervisor in Santa Cruz County. And he's very active now in putting together a local government working group related to offshore continental shelf drilling responses. And so it's about trying to leverage and grow resources of local governments to respond to calls for comment from the federal government. It's so sort of big and expensive and time consuming. How can we, as sort of vision aligned coastal communities, put our resources together and have more impactful comments in response? So Justin has asked that we consider the city of Santa Barbara joining that group. Personally, I think it would be hugely valuable, especially as we work at the Coastal Commission to really try to limit impacts and end drilling, and we are super protective, but there's only so much I can do, like 3 miles offshore. I can't say no, you know what I mean? And so the changes that we might see in the next few years around drilling are profound, and all the work that we've done as a state agency, as local communities, to really stop drilling and stop commodifying our oceans is just at profound risk. And I think the implications obviously for sea level rise, but even more directly like spills and so I'm preaching to the choir. But so anyway, I know that there's like staff capacity is an issue potentially. I don't know how onerous this would be, but I would love, and I will forward you the information that Justin and his team sent to me. But to the extent that there's capacity, I would love to see if my colleagues would support recommending that our staff join that working group, or at least participating to the extent possible. I don't know whether it needs to go to the full council. I don't know.
I do have one thing to mention that is going to be news to you that is aligned with that. There is an alliance forming in response really to the AB 306 debacle that was the ban on reach codes for the next 6 years, or any bespoke codes, local codes. So there is a growing coalition of climate forward cities, forming the Local Government Climate Policy Alliance. Aligned around things like what you're talking about. The City of Santa Barbara is actually taking the lead. So we are engaging a lobbyist, creating a platform with a coalition of cities. We're planning on presenting this to you in February, once we have a bit more certainty around that. And its focus appears to be coalescing around energy affordability in the next year and data center legislation, but it could be another avenue to do what you're talking about, Councilmember Herman. I just wanted to flag that for you because it's a little bit similar.
Okay.
Same, but different.
Yeah, I mean, this is specifically about outdoor drilling.
Right, so that's, yes,
It's a very
could be a good
targeted.
ally
Yeah.
for that.
Well, I'll forward it to you, and
Okay.
I think, I just, one of the things that I've noticed that I would love for us to do more, I know Councilmember Friedman is really engaged in this, but like, we are such leaders in this space, and I see, an opportunity for us to grow our platform and presence, and, I go up and down the state and I'm like, why are we not? We're doing this way, way better, I mean, like, we should be getting the credit that we deserve in a lot of ways, and so I love the idea of, we are leading in all these ways, putting you guys out there, so I can just brag about you, so I don't know, I'll forward it to you. You guys maybe just weigh in if you'd be supportive of it, if there's capacity and a willingness to do it, and go from there. So.
Already, yes, I don't even like to see it. But I'd like to see it, but I don't need to.
All right, any others?
Thanks.
Thank you guys for building it.
Yeah, say my support as well, and thank you for bringing that. That's exactly the kind of thing. And then just, I don't want it to trail off too much, but the ecological framework.
It's coming back in February.
All right.
Yes, finally.
Okay,
There was a bit of a
you.
challenge to wrap our head around how to bring it back, because as last time we presented it to you, we were doing a lot of the things within the framework, but we've been working with the authors of the framework to talk about next steps, and they're actually going to come and present
Great.
their thoughts in February. So that's coming. And there's one more thing in
Thank you.
February. There's a lot in February. There's one more thing.
Yay.
February will be a big meeting.
Wastewater. The climate adaptation plan from the airport will be coming very soon.
That's all gonna be in one meeting?
I don't know.
We're gonna figure that
out.
Maybe we'll just-
I
Yeah,
wanna split that up.
it's hard because we don't have a meeting in January. We could host a special meeting in January.
Special meeting.
I'm gonna be out of the country for a lot of January, just to, what's up?
Or just do a longer meeting.
Or we
Do
could
it 2
extend the
hours.
meeting if you guys are available.
Yeah,
You
we
could do it
schedule a
long.
longer.
We don't like to do
No.
that. Well, we can't do the climate adaptation.
Well, so, but, the commissioner, Councilmember Friedman and Sneddon, you're both on Water Commission liaisons?
She's a liaison.
I'm
on the
liaison.
whole-
I thought you were too.
I'm an alternate, yeah.
Oh, okay, because we will be giving a very detailed presentation on the wastewater plan December 18th at Water Commission.
Mhm.
So I
So in
wonder,
theory, we could maybe skip that on the
um,
sustainability agenda. You will have already heard it if you plan on attending. And then they'd give you a briefing. if you'd like.
Or you can watch it too.
Yeah, okay,
And then we'll see it again at council, right?
correct.
That's a lot of time.
That's a lot of
It's
waste.
a lot of time, a lot of wastewater.
A lot of
time.
wastewater. yeah, so we could take that off
Okay,
February if
Okay.
that works.
We will do some
That's a
calendar
wastewater
management.
adaptation plan? Is
Yeah.
that-
Mhm.
water,
Okay.
wastewater.
Yeah, I think if we're hearing it once at council, we don't probably need to hear it a third time.
With that, no other comments, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank
you.
Much.